Hello YouTube, Legal Doug here. Let's take a look at another case in the area of constitutional law. The case is Smith v. City of Cumming out of the 11th Circuit. Cumming is a town in Georgia and is one that gets referenced a lot with respect to the public's First Amendment right to film in public. The 11th Circuit includes Alabama, Florida, and Georgia, and as always, these cases are presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes and should not be relied upon as legal advice. Always seek your own legal counsel on legal matters. So let's go ahead and take a look at the case itself. It's Smith, and I believe that's his wife, against the city, and Earl Singletary, who I believe is the police chief. Again, it's out of the 11th Circuit, and it was decided in 2000. And as always, let's give some context to the judges here. Take a look at who decided this case. And so we've got Stanley Birch is an 11th Circuit justice. He was appointed by George H.W. Bush in 1990, generally perceived as a conservative. Rosemary Barquette out of the 11th Circuit, appointed by Bill Clinton. In 1994, I think the other side of things there, generally perceived as a liberal. And then Arthur Alarcon out of the Ninth Circuit, actually sitting as a designated justice on this one, appointed by Jimmy Carter in 1979, so a much more experienced justice. And I believe considered, perceived to be a moderate, but I think maybe leaning more liberal on civil rights matters and that type of thing. So that's the panel that made up that is the panel for this case, and I think a balanced one, it looks like. Now, this is a really short case. It gets pretty much right to the point, but let's go ahead and take a look. So Justice Barquette starts off, James and Barbara Smith filed suit against the city of Cumming, Georgia, the city and its police chief, Earl Singletary, pursuant to 42 U.S.C. Section 1983. That's federal law that makes it illegal to deprive civil rights under color of law, alleging that the city police had harassed the Smiths, including a claim that Mr. Smith had been prevented from videotaping police actions in violation of Smith's First Amendment rights. That's the whole issue and why it's such an important matter, why it's such an important case. They appealed from summary judgment, meaning that below, the judge found that there were no issues of material fact, and as a matter of law, the city was entitled to judgment. And the 11th Circuit is saying we affirm. So Smith loses on that claim, but let's see how they said it. As to the First Amendment claim under Section 1983, we agree with the Smiths that they had a First Amendment right, subject to reasonable time, manner, and place restrictions, to photograph or videotape police conduct. That's the key sentence in this entire thing. That's why this is such an important case. You have the right to do that. It is subject to certain restrictions. You can't show up at the police department, at least certain parts of it, outside of business hours and demand to get to film, and you can't go into restricted areas and that type of thing. There are some restrictions, but you do have that right to photograph or videotape police conduct. They go on to say the First Amendment protects the right to gather information about what public officials do on public property, and specifically a right to record matters of public interest. And that's the whole point, I think, of that side of these things, that that's our government. We pay for it. We elect it. It's our government. It's government of the people. And we have a right to know what they're doing, and that's the point here. I just want to point out they also cite Fordyce v. City of Seattle. That's another very important case. Although Fordyce, to me, was not nearly as clear in its language about that. You almost had to infer the right from the language in Fordyce. But it's also another, that's out of the Ninth Circuit, and it's another very important case establishing that right to film the police. So they go on, after several citations here, they go on to say, thus the district court erred in concluding that there was no First Amendment right. Again, this is why this case is cited all the time. However, they interestingly go on to say, Nonetheless, under Section 1983, the Smiths must prove that the conduct complained of deprived them of a right, privilege, or immunity secured by the Constitution or laws of the United States. Although the Smiths have a right to videotape police activities, they have not shown that the defendant's actions violated that right. We find no merit in the remaining arguments presented in this appeal and affirmed. So they're agreeing with the court below that just based on the facts of this case, and well, I don't know if the court below felt this way, but the 11th Circuit feels like, yeah, you have that right, no question, but we're not seeing where the Smiths were violated, where that right was violated, and they were prevented from doing that. So that's why they lost this case. But nonetheless, it's a very important case in First Amendment jurisprudence. So that's the case. It's a very short one, but it's definitely a very, very important one, and one you hear brought up quite a bit. So we will get back to these next week. We probably will address Fordyce at some point in the very near future. But that's the case for this week. Appreciate your time and listening to this. As always, if you like what you see here, just appreciate a like and a subscribe. And we will continue doing this, and appreciate your time today. Thank you.